thanks for joining me today. I know you're a busy lady. Your story inspired me because it's a generational story. You come from a wealth of experience in terms of your mum and dad, your brothers. But let's start with your mum, who one of her pieces is actually part of the royal collection, is my understanding. Is that right?
That's right. Yes, yes, yes. She was a very determined woman. At 13, she knew that she wanted to go to art school. So she went to Kingston School of Art at 13 and then eventually ended up at the Royal College of Smile in London. So that was fantastic. She really had a good time. Very, very dedicated. Was one of the top leading animal sculptors in the country.
In the world, actually, as far as
maybe so. Yes, yes, yeah. She is in collections across the world. It's true. Yeah. And that's where she met my dad as well. So my father was also at the Royal College. He was a painter. You see one of his paintings in the background there. That's from the 60s.
Wow.
And that's actually one of my mum's sculptures there. You see the dog there. So that's there. So I still have a good few of the collection here. Just a few pieces that were left after they died. So they moved then to York in the 60s to work in the art school. And so that was fantastic. They had a really good time. They really enjoyed it. Gave that up, I think, in the mid 70s, sort of early 70s, actually, to become self-employed. And that's really when it took off as far as the work went. But it did mean, I grew up with it, in that sense. All of us, my brothers, we're all connected with the arts. It's not one of us that's not connected.
I saw that. It's nature versus nurture. So were you actually immersed in that environment that inspire you?
Very much so. Very, very much so. Without even realizing it. You sort of, when you're growing up with it, you sort of think it's normal, So, your mum does.
Yeah. What kind of drew you to, pottery making in particular? What?
Well, my original thing was sculpture.
Yeah.
When I went to Kingston as well and studied sculpture, I knew instinctively that I was better off working with 3D rather than just 2D. So that was something that I said. And what I found though, so I finished my degree in sculpture in 1985, and it was very much a time of conceptual work. And this just didn't suit me. That thing of the fine art I wanted something that worked more directly with people, I think. And that's when I realized that I went to one exhibition. It was one exhibition that was the key point. Even though my father was a potter, I didn't consider it. And I went to one exhibition, and it was a contemporary ceramics exhibition, the like of which I had not seen before. And it was that sort of flash of light bulb moment where you just go, that's where I'm going to go. That's the direction. And I had grown up enough around it that instinctively I knew how to work with clay. And even being a sculptor, I'm working with clay a lot. So it was not a huge a huge leap. It was a natural progression as far as I was concerned. I went to Goldsmiths, then did a postgraduate in ceramics, and that really helped me specialize. But yeah, and it was more sculptural stuff. Shall I show you a piece?
Please.
So that is one of the more sculptural pieces that I would make. So it's not particularly functional work. What I've enjoyed more recently then, so the body is thrown, these are slab, and I really enjoy the carving is actually the bit that I enjoy the most, where with this particular piece where you've got it, so it's cutting across the piece, you've got this sort of lovely pod shape, but it's cut with the decoration, so it becomes another shape. And I still really enjoy doing those. It's not financially part of what I do, but it's what I do for myself and my own enjoyment. And they do sell us, so they sell for exhibition rather than through a shop, so to speak.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about, because you host workshops as well. Just tell us a little bit about, I suppose we're moving forward a little bit, we'll go back again, but what you're doing now at the moment.
Yes, the classes. The pottery in Ballymorris is in Cracklow, so it's a good location. It's just off the main road, but it's still, people have to come to us specifically, and so one of the ways to draw them in is with offering classes, and I like that. As a potter, you're often working. I have a part-timer, so there are two of us working in the pottery, but most of the time you're working on your own. And I like the social side of teaching as well. So the classes are brilliant. They're really fantastic. I love doing them. I have a sort of beginner section for people who've had no experience and they come in completely wide-eyed, and you just throw them right in, get them on the wheel, working. Oh, it's fantastic. I do love it. And then the continuation, when people they will come back to me with their own ideas, and then it's problem solving, how best to make something, what's gone wrong, what's right about it, and developing someone's skill. So that's a different aspect of the teaching, but I enjoy both very much.
Okay, and then I suppose as a craft maker, how do you compete with like this, the high production organizations like, and the likes of Etsy that are selling craft online, and it's not,
Yes. I mean, I certainly could be doing. I'd certainly of it, and I do some wholesale. So we are. But my theory, not my theory, but my reaction to it really is that you can't compete. We're a small business and we are a small stock. So we are only we're making to order. It takes time. Anybody ordering from us has to appreciate that. I can't compete with the big boys. I can't compete with the imported stuff from China. You just can't. And I don't even try to. And the nice thing about it is that because it's handmade, people are recognizing it. There is an awareness of the value of what we are making and what they're paying for. So we are surviving from that point of view.
Yeah, I think you have to have a real love for what you're doing in order to do that, because you see some designers or people in the creative industry and they've kind of sold out. Like, you see some designers in the likes of Dunn stores, or I'm not saying sold out, but it's like it's mass market. And I think it's great that we're coming back to appreciating, and I suppose it's the sustainability factor as well, even though everybody's on about sustainability, but I think for something like what you're doing, creating this piece that you'll cherish for years, maybe like decades, absolutely decades.
Yes, they will last. I mean, if you think of early ceramics, they're going back 4,000 years. So there is nothing to say that the work I am making will have that longevity, and it is quite humbling in some ways. It's a legacy. And you're right. You are right. You are creating a different thing, and as long as the appreciation is there for that sort of unique work, then we'll have no problem in that sense. I think at the moment, with everything being more mass produced, like people have said to me, aren't you worried about 3D printing and that sort of thing? I'm saying, not really. It's a part of a process I might be able to incorporate if I'm having to make things, but it's not really a challenge when people know they're buying something that's handmade rather than machine made.
Yeah.
So it's yet another process. It's a bit like, TV killing off radio. It doesn't apply because it's a different thing.
Different medium. Yeah, that's interesting you said that about the 3D because 3D printing, because like, for example, with your type of business, you could actually show a client this is what it's going to look like when it's finished, almost, in terms of so like as you said, you can marry the two together.
Yeah.
Like, as a craft maker, what challenges do you face, like in terms of how do you motivate yourself to get out of bed in the morning and work?
You know what? I find that really easy. Given the circumstance, I really like my workshop. So at the moment, I'm in my parents' house over in England, which I also run, so to speak. But when I'm in Ireland, it's work mode. I'm there, and the pottery is across the way from where I live. And there's always somebody knocking on the door. We don't open early. It's 10 o'clock starts, very civilized. But I'm really surprised at there's always something to do. There's always something that needs to. I don't have that problem. Very occasionally, if things are quiet, and then you're just going, what am I going to do today? And that becomes quite a novel problem. It doesn't happen very often.
And can I ask you, because just about the Celtic designs, because you're renowned for your Celtic designs. What was it about? What's the connection there in terms of?
I went to Newgrange, saw those spirals on those early rocks, and that's really what started me off with it. And they have developed, they do change. I think what it is the spiral. It's not a circle. it's ever changing. So a lot of, if you think of, so many primitive cultures will use those spirals, be it North Americans or the Chinese, or and it's so across the board, that it must speak to us as individuals. They've all come across this. They've all come to it, and I've used it and I change it. So it is
Evolving.
developing. Yeah, all the time.
And then, like, I was on your Instagram page. How do you promote? How do you craft your story? Because when I kind of delved into the research behind your family and I was watching videos about your mum, I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea until I did the research. And
Yeah.
it's, you know, you just seem to be kind of staying in your own lane. But how do you do that? How do you actually craft your story? Because I think your story is part of your mum and dad's story, your family story.
It is. I mean, all three of us, myself and my two brothers, we all work within. One brother's a painter, another is a potter.
Tobias,
That's Tobias is the painter, Ben is the potter. And we have a family exhibition on at the moment. It would have been my dad's 100th birthday this year. So as sort of to mark it, we wanted to do something. So we're having a family exhibition. It's on in York at the moment. That's our hometown. And it's what really astounds me is just how well all the work is together. And yet, as you said, we are all our own path. We're all our own character. But there is, I don't know what it is about it, a sense of place or the quality or something.
I think so.
Where it gives us a very coherent show, even though we are all very different. I used to really enjoy, my parents are dead. My dad's 15 years now, and my mum about 8 years. But going back when we were younger and all setting out, I do remember quite clearly that the conversations around the dinner table, because it was problem solving and it was fantastic. So you think, well, what do I do about this? How do I tackle that? And it was brilliant because we were all connected. Even my sister-in-law, she's a sculptor. So I mean, we're all connected, and it made it coherent as well, so that and yet we all had that strength to explore each other's paths and to problem solve. Wow, great.
I think it's phenomenal. You're the first craft maker I've met in a long time that you just have this inner peace and confidence. And I think that comes from this generational story. And actually, your mum and dad were mentors, and your brother, and you're acting as a mentor to your brother, vice versa. And it's, I think it's really powerful. And I think there's something there in how you're crafting your story that's completely unique. And I think it's refreshing because we're not relying on, let's put this video up on social media, let's do this, let's do that. No, let's do.
But is that a generational thing, in that sense? I mean, part of me goes, I know I should be, but I just, I do a little bit, and I do some of that where I am trying to raise the profile, and I quite enjoy bits of it. It's about the making and the interaction with people that I really enjoy. And the business we're 30 years in business next year. So we're trying to figure out how we're going to celebrate that. And we're quite looking forward to what we might do. But it's also, maybe it comes in time with confidence, the fact that we have been here so long. And it's not static, it changes the whole time. I thought I was going to be making those tripod pieces. I thought I was going to do architectural ceramics, so I'm doing house signs. And then that wasn't working. So this was in the early 90s, and it was difficult to earn a living in the early 90s, in that sense. There was less money. People don't realize that there's economic problems now, but I think it was harder then. My husband at the time said, try the domestic wear, which I wasn't doing. I wasn't intending to do. And it was seeing that there was a market. And so it's one of the things that sustains the business is seeing those potential changes on the markets. And so even though I'm not a terribly go-getter, sharp-edged, trendy craftsperson, I am good at seeing opportunities. So that we started making the mugs, we developed that, we started doing the teaching, we developed that, we do the children's. I had a child 26 years ago and made the handprints in clay. And I went, oh, this is good. If I like it, other people will.
Oh, wow.
So started doing that as well. And it was just, so you see an opportunity, and your business bends with it. So it's ever changing. So it's not static. And then when I see work from 10 years ago, I'm like, oh, actually, I don't think the work changes that much, but it does. The designs change all the time. I mean, and I've got other ideas. So it's actually quite nice at the moment, because of working with this exhibition, this family exhibition. I'm now thinking about changing the way I do some of my glazing for the more production wear. So even though I want to make it more simple, the business is ridiculously diverse. It's almost too diverse, but at the same time, maybe that's its strength because of all these things I was mentioning. But also, and there's me going ahead already thinking, oh, I could do this, I could do this, and it's nice. I like that.
Oh my gosh, you're just an absolute breath of fresh air. I think we've got a really good insight into your world as a craft maker. Well, we've tipped on the iceberg of what you are as a person and your craft and your art, but I can just tell that, I can tell why you're so successful. It's just there's something innately unique. So thank you so much for meeting with me today, Hannah.
It's a pleasure. It really has been a pleasure.